So you're looking at financing for a car or a house, and you see the term Murabahah. What exactly is that? To a lot of us, it kind of sounds, well, complex. Maybe just a fancy name for a loan. But is that all there is to it? We're going to pull this whole thing apart, piece by piece, and find out what really makes it tick and how it's different from a regular loan.
But look, let's just cut to the chase. The big question, the elephant in the room, is this. Is Murabahah just a clever way to rebrand interest and make it sound acceptable? It's a fair question. A lot of people think it. And that is exactly the question we're here to tackle head-on. So to really get to the bottom of this, here's our game plan. First, we'll pin down what a Murabahah sale even is. Then we'll tackle that big misconception about it being just another form of credit. From there, we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the absolute must-have rules for it to be legit. We'll also look at the red flags to avoid, and then we'll wrap it all up with the key things you absolutely need to remember. Okay, let's get started. At its very core, what is a Murabahah sale? To really understand it, we gotta zoom out a little and see where it fits into the grand scheme of buying and selling. Okay, if you boil Murabahah down to one single word, that word is transparency. It's really that simple. The seller has to lay all their cards on the table. They have to tell you, the buyer, two things. Here's what this item cost me, and here's the profit I'm adding on top. And you both have to agree to it. That open book policy, that's the foundation of the whole deal. And this is where things get different from our everyday experience. Think about it. When you go to a store, you see a price tag. You might try to haggle, but you'd never ask the cashier, hey, how much did you guys pay for this? Right? That's called a Musawwama sale. It's the norm. Murabahah is the complete opposite. It belongs to a special category called Amana sales, which literally means trust-based. And in this case, telling you the cost price isn't just being nice, it's a non-negotiable rule of the game. All right, now we're getting to the part that trips a lot of people up. Because you see Murabahah used for financing big purchases, it's so easy to just think, oh, it's a loan. But that's a huge misconception, and we're going to clear the air on that right now.
Just look at this side-by-side comparison. It really spells it out. With Murabahah, the whole transaction revolves around a physical thing, a real asset, like a car or a house. The profit comes from the markup on that item. A conventional loan, that's all about money. You're borrowing money, and the bank's profit comes from charging interest on that money. It's a completely different universe. One is about selling goods, the other is about selling debt. And here's the key takeaway, the thing you have to get. How you pay for it doesn't change what it is. A Murabahah transaction is a sale. You could pay for it right then and there with cash. Or you can pay for it over time in installments. And that's why it's so useful for financing. But even with installment payments, at its heart, it's still a sale. It's not and never was a loan. So this brings us to the real substance. What actually makes a Murabahah deal legitimate? Because it's not just about slapping a label on something. There are strict rules of the game, and they are absolutely not up for negotiation. There are basically 3 golden rules. Pillar number 1, the seller, let's say it's your bank, has to actually own the item first. They have to buy it and have it in their possession before they can sell it to you. Pillar 2, we've talked about this, total transparency. You know the cost, you know the profit, no secrets. And pillar 3, and this one is a biggie, the price is final, locked in. It can never, ever go up. No late fees that add to the principal, no interest hikes. The price you agreed to on day 1 is the total price you will pay, period. And this whole you have to own it first rule isn't just some random detail. It comes from a foundational principle in Islamic finance, captured perfectly in this famous saying, do not sell what you do not possess. So a bank can't just promise to sell you a car and then go shopping for it. No, they have to go out, buy the car, take ownership of it, and only then can they enter into a new, separate contract to sell it to you. So why is ownership such a huge deal? Well, it all comes down to risk. This other saying gets to the heart of it. There can be no profit without bearing the risk of loss. When the bank buys that car, before you even enter the picture, they have skin in the game. What happens if the car gets a scratch in their lot? What if its value suddenly drops? That's their problem. They are taking a real risk. And in this system, legitimate profit is seen as the fair reward for taking on that real, tangible risk. Okay, we've got the theory down. Now let's talk about the real world. Because once you know the rules, you also know how to spot when they're being broken. Let's go over the big red flags, the warning signs that what you're being offered might not be a genuine Murabahah at all. Yeah, these are the absolute no-goes. First up, late fees.
Now, a bank can charge a penalty to discourage late payments, but here's the kicker: they can't keep that money as profit. It must go to charity. Another huge red flag is any kind of shady engineered contract that's just a loan wearing a sales costume. And, as we've hammered home, they can't sell you something that's still on a delivery truck somewhere. They have to actually possess it and take on that risk first.
A textbook example of a forbidden workaround is something called buy-in, or a buyback scheme. Let's say you sell something to a bank for cash, and then immediately agree to buy it back from them for a higher price on credit. The item never really went anywhere, did it? The whole point was for you to get cash now and pay back more later. That's not a real sale. That's just a loan with extra steps, designed to hide interest.
All right, that was a lot to take in. So let's boil it all down. What are the absolute key points you need to walk away with? Here it is in a nutshell. First, it's a sale, not a loan. Second, transparency is everything. You know the cost and the profit. Third, the seller must own the item first, taking on real risk. Fourth, the price is fixed. It does not change. And finally, the profit is from selling a thing, not from renting out money. These are the clear, bright lines that make it fundamentally different from a loan.
And that brings us full circle. Now you know the rules of the game: ownership, transparency, a fixed price, and the principle of risk. You now have the checklist. So the real question I want to leave you with is this: when you see something out there being called Murabahah, does it actually tick all of these boxes? That's for you to decide.